Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, thanks for being here. Welcome to The Juice. We're really happy to have our panel this morning. The sun is shining, so that always puts a smile on my face. It seems to be a rare commodity in the winter in Michigan, so that's a great thing to start out with this morning. Our panel today is really, I think it's going to be a really informative topic. I think we're going to be talking a little bit about why it's important to keep as a new business or as a any kind of a business owner, why it's important to keep good books, and that's just something that for your own sense of organization is important, but it's really important to how you structure your business. And how you interact with lenders, how you interact with a lot of things, and I think we'll have some interesting perspectives here this morning. A lot of businesses, obviously, in the last almost a year, have been tremendously adversely impacted by COVID, and there's been opportunities for people to be able to apply for grants, to be able to apply for loans. But with that, in most cases, is the application in which you've got to be able to show, your income, your books, and and if you don't have that in order, especially in a time of crisis, it can be something that inhibits you from being able to apply for things. And then also, even just under normal circumstances, when you're applying for a loan, or you are, doing something where, an investor needs to look at your business information, it's important. And I think often new businesses are so focused on getting their business going, making that first sale, getting that first customer, that maybe having yourself structured ahead of time is, something that gets put on the back burner. So we've got our panelists this morning can talk to a couple of different angles of this whole discussion. We have Corey Swiftney from BeanLogix, and I'm going to have everybody talk a little bit about what their business is and what their perspective is as part of this conversation. But BeanLogix is a bookkeeping software company. They do bookkeeping, they do payroll software. And Corey, you can obviously explain a little bit more about that. But it's a tool. There are many tools for people to be able to keep on top of things, and it doesn't have to be overly expensive, and it doesn't have to be overly cumbersome to start out in an organized way. So Corey will be able to talk a little bit about that. We have Kevin Davis, who is with Rende Progress Capital. They are a micro lender organization, among other things, working with a lot of entrepreneurs in the community. But Kevin knows, what it's like to work with entrepreneurs who are either applying for microloans, or, just coming for basic business consulting. So Kevin can bring that perspective. We've got Jeff Bryant from Jeff Bryant Painting, and Jeff obviously is a business owner, and we'll talk a lot about his experience and how he's been able to grow his company, but also do that in a way that he's used some of the tools here. He does work with Corey, and so he can attest to how that is. And then we have Jermale Eddy with Malamiah Juice Bar, and Jermale is also a business owner. Is going to talk about his experiences, and Jermale has some unique experiences applying for different kinds of grants, PPP, and he can tell you a little bit about what that process is like. And I know that right now there's another round of PPP loan applications that you can apply for, and obviously more grant opportunities. So this might be a timely discussion for that. And let's not forget that it's tax time. So that's always an important thing that we don't like to think about, but it's a part of life. And so we'll kind of talk about why it's important to have everything in order prior to tax time, so maybe you're not scrambling at the last minute to do that. So with that introduction, I think I'll start out in the order that I introduced you guys, and let you kind of give a little bit more information about who you are and what you do. So let's start with Corey.
Good morning. My name is Corey Swiftney with BeanLogix. I'm the lead bean counter. BeanLogix, as Lori said, we do payroll and bookkeeping for small businesses. Really, our goal is to help small business owners make more money, manage their cash flow, keep more of the money they make. Typically, when we talk to business owners, what they love about working with us and our bookkeeping payroll services is it really allows them to focus on what they truly love doing, and we can take that backroom administration type function off of their plate. But there's so much more to it, and really the PPP was a great example of how having clean books can really help. So that's I'm really excited for today's discussion and let small business owners that know the power of great books. I'll give one quick stat, Lori, and then I'll be quiet.
No, you're good.
So typically, we've all heard that 50% of new businesses fail in the first 3 years. And people at Start Garden have heard this from me before, but working with Zero and having a advisor increases that success rate to 80% from 50% on average. So small business owners can really help themselves even up to 30% more success, right? By doing things the right way and working with an advisor.
Yeah. Corey, just explain what Zero is for people who may not know.
I'm sorry. Zero is a small business online cloud-based accounting program. Basically, it gets compared with QuickBooks Online. We are 100% dedicated to Zero rather than QuickBooks Online because we feel the platform it's built in the cloud, it started in the cloud, it's 100% in the cloud, it's streamlined, it works. We find it works significantly better for our small business clients.
Okay, great, thank you. Kevin Davis.
Good morning, everyone. As Lori mentioned, my name is Kevin Davis. I'm the Opportunity and Lending Officer for Rende Progress Capital. Rende Progress Capital is the nation's only racial equity-based small business lender. We specialize in providing loans and lines of credit to excluded entrepreneurs of color, African American, Latin American, or Latino, Latinx, Asian American, Native, or Indigenous. In addition to those loans, we also provide technical assistance, or what I like to call business knowledge, wisdom, and understanding with regard to how to start your business, how to sustain your business, and how to grow your business. Specifically, though, in my role, what I do as the Opportunity and Lending Officer involves a couple of different things. Primarily, I'm responsible for the analysis, processing, and preparing of loan applicant files so that they can be reviewed and possibly approved and put together so that money can be dispersed to the applicant. I also assist the Business Development Director in community connection, awareness, and reaching out to those small businesses here in the community. So really, in the case of interested parties, I work to turn inquiries into outcomes, defeat into success, barriers into bridges, and helplessness into hope. Thus, we take complexion in a new direction by removing the fear of rejection. So this happens through our online process, which takes the time to get to know the applicant, their situation, their struggles, their story, and really helps us determine which one of our products is going to work best for them. And then we build that into a loan that specifically works for that client and their needs.
Awesome. Did you just write that this morning, or is that something you say all the time?
I wrote it recently, but not this morning.
That was great.
Thank you.
Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Bryant. I own Jeff Bryant Painting, and we're a residential painting company. Our motto is a better home painting experience. As a second generation painter, I'm uniquely positioned to have an extensive skill set of the, mastery of the industry for the most part, not mastered. I'm always learning, right? Everybody's always learning. But I'm able to marry that with a professionalism that I saw lacking in the industry. Oftentimes you see there are painters that are doing new homes, and some of which, and I would say the vast majority of which, it's a little daunting to have them into your home, just based on the culture of that industry. And most of the people that are working in homes are people like me. They have a skill set, and they're professional, and they're honest, and they're trustworthy. But it's hard to replicate that into your organization and build a culture around that, because if you're doing all the work yourself, you're not growing. You have a ceiling of what you can earn and the impact that you can make. So my guys have bought into the philosophy that we want to improve and change our industry as far as the perception of it. And so we go into homes where we work around, dogs and small children and, stay-at-home moms. And, my guys know right from the get-go, hey, if you knock on a door at 7:30, there might be a mom of 3, the oldest is 7. She's already, been thrown up on and she feels insecure. And then 3 guys are knocking on her door, right? So for the first 30 minutes you're on the job, we're not painters. We're making sure they're comfortable and that we're going to take care of their home and, work around nap schedules and stay at this end of the house and that kind of thing. But what's really developing that culture has given me the opportunity to do what I love, which is set up a spray shop, fully professional equipped spray shop. And we do a lot of cabinet refinishing. Spraying in my shop has been a new love of mine for a long time. I've done it in very difficult environments before, setting up, the temporary spray shops inside people's homes and things like that. Very grateful to be in that situation. And I think some of the value that can be shared with today is the process that I've used and I've used BeanLogix has given me the platform, like to take an adventure launched from a secure platform. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I'll stop talking.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, Jermale. Did he hear me? Can you hear me? Jermale.
All right, I can hear you now. I was waiting for the mute. Seemed like it was lagging a little bit there. But can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay. So I am Jermale Eddy. I'm owner and co-founder of Malamiah Juice Bar. We are now Malamiah Juice Bar and Eatery, located at Studio Park. We originally started in 2013 at the downtown market as the first and only Black-owned business in that market, as well as in 2013, we were the second Black-owned business at that time with the storefront in downtown Grand Rapids. So as some think of Grand Rapids as being very progressive in the area of businesses, let's just think about that for a minute. Second Black-owned business with the storefront downtown. Today, I believe there are 4 or 5. And so we haven't come that far since 2013, but we are moving, and I have a great expectation that will get better. We serve juices and smoothies and other healthy food and beverages. And then we also take pride in bringing along others on the journey, such as brewing Ferris coffee. We sell Sacred Springs kombucha. We have Granola Goddess granola bars. And so many other items that we try to bring in, again, from other minority, women-owned, small local businesses here in the city.
Great, thank you. So I guess what I'd like to start out with is maybe get from Corey and Kevin some experiences that you might have had with people, entrepreneurs or small business owners coming to you and maybe knowing that they're not prepared, or maybe not knowing that they're not prepared and organized in the way they should be. How do people approach you, Corey, or how do you reach out and connect with small businesses?
So typically our clients come from word of mouth from other clients and people in the marketplace that recognize the importance of good bookkeeping and payroll. Usually there's a pain point, right, that causes them to say, you know what, I have to do something different, and I need some help to do that. Payroll is often a catalyst because anybody that has employees, really that's a hard thing to do, and make sure you're completely compliant and stay out in the good graces with the IRS in the state of Michigan. So that's typically where a lot of our clients come from if they have a pain point. We work with businesses that have been in business 2 or 3 years and are really growing. A lot of them may have an internal bookkeeper, but find that internal bookkeeper may be able to process transactions, but isn't really helping them from a value perspective to their business. Where are we now? Where do we need to go? And what are the tech pieces that I need to put in place? What's my tech stack in order to help me get there? And when I say tech stack is, it's a beautiful world today compared to where we were 10, 15 years ago for small businesses. It's amazing the amount of technology resources that are available for each small business in their specific niche, right? So no longer do we have to live in a world where we have to design all our processes around an accounting program. Instead, we can design our tech stack and build it out for our specific needs in order to help us not only run our business better, communicate better with our employees, but also communicate better with our clients and our vendors. And those are, it's endless. So for instance, in Xero's app marketplace, there's over 700 apps today that Xero has identified and works with actively that supports small businesses. That's a huge variety depending on what their needs are. And that can be for small business owners, that can be really daunting. So I believe one of our best points of service to our clients is helping them develop that tech stack and helping them implement it and then monitoring it going forward so they know how they're doing, and they can then assess how they pay their employees, how they and work with their clients and things of this nature. So that's a little bit about the value that small business bookkeeping can bring today versus what it would have brought 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's where I was kind of headed with that. Kevin, for you, how often do you have people, come in, talk to you about applying for a loan, and realize that they're not prepared? Their paperwork is not going to fly.
It happens more often than you would think. It's not as frequent as it used to be because, of course, by now we're a little bit better established. There's a kind of an expectation with regard to what documentation should look like, because a lot of folks visit our website and it's all listed there. But still, we have folks come in who virtually now, of course, with regard to applications, and they'll submit an entire application through our online process, and by the time I gather that information and start parsing through it, I discover that there are pieces of the puzzle that are missing. And so one of the things I have to tell folks, because I'll immediately get on the phone and say, hey, look, I need to talk to you for a minute about what's happening with your application. I talk to them about a premise I call the 5 Ps, which is proper preparation prevents poor performance. If you're prepared when you approach a lender, then you can perform. And in this case, performance being, of course, having the right documentation put together in the proper manner. Now, I say that with the caveat that sometimes that happens because people don't know what they should have. Even when you outline it, they may not be familiar with what those things are. Some folks don't understand what a business budget looks like, what a cash flow projection is, what a P&L statement is. Corey knows, but a lot of entrepreneurs don't know. And so I say to that, you don't know what you don't know. So there's no indictment at RPC when you come in without knowledge. A big part of what we do, in addition to trying to help close the racial wealth gap, is to close the knowledge gap as well.
Right.
So we provide folks with the information that they need. We explain what those things are, why they're important, how they impact their business, because not only do we help the small business owner get past the hurdles of putting their business together and having it documented properly, we also help them transform their business into one that will eventually be bankable, which means they can go to one of either our banking partners, which is the goal. Once they complete our program, they have everything in place and they're set so that if their next project is out of scope with regard to what RPC can provide, we can easily refer them to one of our banking partners who, with a letter of recommendation from us, will take them past all the common hurdles, red tape, gatekeepers, and everything else, and go straight to the person who can help them build their next part of the plan. So, you know, a lack of knowledge is not a crime. It's just something that's out there that we need to undo. And that's a big part of what RPC does on the front end with our business development director with his technical assistance. We call it pre-loan readiness. He takes them through the process, helps them understand, okay, these are all the things you're going to need to have in place before you go to sit and talk with Kevin or go and see Kevin or put your application through the portal. And I find that when they go through that part of the process first, which is that pre-loan readiness, 95% of the time, everything is there and we're ready to move forward. And I can do a complete analysis and really put something together relatively quickly.
Great. Jeff, you said you were a second generation painter. Does that mean that you were a second generation owning the business, or how did your business actually start?
Second generation painter, meaning my dad was a painter,
Right.
And he did not, through poor decisions, did not hold on to a business he started. Ended up working for somebody else the last 15 years of his life. So, but the skill set started real young. 6, 7 years old in the garage, helping to stain wood and learning varnishes. Back in the 80s, everything was oil-based and stinky and all of that. So to being on job sites, learning the flow of a job, of a new construction home from start to finish, being the grunt, doing all the work that nobody else wanted to do, cleaning, 10 guys would walk by and throw their paintbrushes into a bucket for me to clean and then go deliver back to them. But those are lessons that, although I hated them at the time, have taught me so much. It's also taught me how not to run a business and how the culture that I didn't want to create. Try to be the owner or the quote unquote boss that I would want to work for. And again, that's just another small piece of the culture puzzle. So I haven't spent my entire life as a painter, but it's always, when I was younger, it was my fallback until I embraced a love for it and married that with some business experience and just moved forward and have loved it. So, but the second generation painter aspect, well, it just sounds good, right? Hey, I'm a second generation painter. So that's what I am.
Right. I'll come back to you in a second, because what I kind of want to get out of you is how when you decided that this is what you were going to do and you were going to own your own business, how did you begin and kind of structure yourself to get your business started? I'll get back to that in a second. I wanted to touch on some stuff with Jermale. So you started out you said what, 2013? So kind of tell us a little bit about your story and how you grew your business and what skills and things that you built into it.
Yeah, we started our business kind of out of a mental, emotional necessity. And we felt like it was this God nudge, purpose-driven type of thing. What I mean by all of this is that I spent 2 years in a job that simply provided me with insurance and money to pay the mortgage. Many of us take on those jobs once or a whole bunch of times in our lives, if we have to be honest with us. So we work, we're held accountable, we take care of our business, and then in return, we get a paycheck. Nothing wrong with that at all. But that's where I was at. And it was a job that didn't bring me a lot of joy. And I felt that. My wife felt that when I would come home drained and somewhat in a pre-depression state of mind. And it was around the same time that I was introduced and discovered this whole notion of juicing, of making juice. And we both felt like this was a God nudge of a ram in the bush, so to speak, to start a juice bar.
Mm-hmm.
We thought about it at the same time in different places, and was like, okay, whatever that is, let's do it. And so I ended up resigning from my job, doing all this research on juice bars. No money in the bank, no money in my pocket. This was 2012, shortly after the housing market crash. So we owed more than what the house was worth, had car payments, kids coming. And, nonetheless, we pressed on. We talked to a few people in the community who thought it was a good idea. A lot of folks thought we were crazy. We're as a African-American male, this is definitely at that time non-traditional for folk who look like me getting into juicing business. And we had no experience, never been to a juice bar before, no business experience or business knowledge. But we said yes, that we're going to do what we feel that we're supposed to do until we feel otherwise. And then we said, we're going to jump on this health wave and ride it out until it dies out. And that was over 7 years ago. And along the way, we brought the community with us. Let me rephrase that. The community decided to come along with us. And so I'll say that to say that we're only still standing here because of the love of our community for propelling us forward. And so when we started this thing, we said we wanted to be able to employ youth of color specifically. We said that we wanted to be able to have a presence in the community and to help reduce or change the health disparities in the Black community. We didn't realize that right there is a huge lofty goal. So then later on, we changed our mission to say that we would partner with those who seek to change the health disparities in the Black community. And so we really stand true to our partnerships within the community, from the health community to other nonprofits and whatnot. And we believe that our job is to plant seeds of love wherever we are, however we can do that. And, when you plant those seeds, they're going to bear good fruit, no pun intended. But, when you come through our doors, we want you to experience happiness. We want you to experience joy. We want you to feel better when you leave than when you came. And when you have our product, we want you to feel more energized and better than before you had it. And so we stand behind our products 100%. And we're so appreciative to the community for accepting us and then helping us move forward here. We're looking at year number 8, although we're still in year number 7.
Awesome. So there's a really interesting similarity between both Jermale and Jeff. You both clearly are doing something that you're passionate about. Both of you started out maybe doing other things and then, came to the conclusion that running this particular type of business for each one of you is sort of a calling and a thing that you are really passionate about. And you're really focused on building the culture around your businesses. So what I'd like to kind of morph into is we do have some questions specifically regarding PPP, but what I then want to get from you guys is, while the culture of your business is obviously, the thing that keeps you going, the business has to be a business and it has to make money and it has to be profitable. So how do you focus on the tools that you use to do that? Because I think a lot of people go into business because they're passionate about something, but then the daunting part is to have to work on those, the business principles and make that work. So I'd love to talk about that, but let's see what questions we have regarding PPP. And I guess there's a few others.
Yes. So the first one's a little long, but I think it's probably a story a lot of entrepreneurs have had to deal with. So this is from our friend Dawn. She said, I received a PPP during the last round. It was never disclosed on the application that if you had losses on your 2019 taxes, you would not qualify for forgiveness. For a forgiveness. I used the money exactly as told to do so, but now because we had losses, I'm not even eligible for forgiveness. But of course we had losses. We had just opened. And what the heck did my 2019 losses have to do with challenges we had in 2020? Anyway, long story short, do you know if that issue has changed and now losses do not disqualify you for forgiveness, or am I screwed?
That is an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. Corey?
I don't either. I don't
Okay.
know. That would be a discussion. Probably Kevin might have a better answer, as the banks typically process the forgiveness, but we certainly would be happy to help her research it too and figure it out from a CPA perspective.
I mean, I don't know. Kevin, you guys did not process PPPs, right? Yeah.
We did not.
Okay.
PPP, the closest thing we have to that right now is our Race for Progress program, which is, recovery addressing COVID and exclusion. So we have that in place for folks who couldn't get PPP because it serves the same purpose to help with rent, payroll that's back or past due, and other expenses, utilities, etc., that can help with small businesses falling behind. So we don't do PPP because we weren't designated as someone to disperse it, but we certainly have something that can help with that for those who weren't able to get it.
Yeah. Jermale, do you know?
Yeah, I'm sitting here kind of puzzled because I don't feel like that was 100% true for 2019 losses affecting 2020's application for the PPP, because when they asked on the application, they asked for the comparison of 2019 to 2020, and that those numbers would have been reported in the beginning. And therefore, if they're reported in the beginning, this individual should have been told by, if they're working with an accountant or CPA, or if they have that relationship with their bank, with their lender, should have been told about that gray area from the beginning. Because again, we relocated in 2019 to Studio Park, so we had losses, and then of course we had losses in 2020, and I'm looking at losses in 2021. You see there's a theme, losses. And so I would just encourage this individual to maybe, I don't want to sound like I'm in the medical field, but I would encourage you to get a second opinion on that. We did get our PPP forgiven.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Yes, she did mention she just responded and said that she's being told by the SBA that that's why she's being denied forgiveness. So maybe,
and I would say even it might even be a good opportunity to follow up and maybe connect with the SBDC as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we can follow up with her afterwards, but it sounds like, for whatever reason, I mean, Jermale did not have that issue, and he had losses and got his loan forgiven. So there seems to be some other gray area, I think.
Yeah.
So I do have a client that I think about had losses in 19 as well, and we have not been forgiven yet, but it's been submitted to the SBA, and our bank has not said anything about that. And the application did not ask about our 2019 profitability. So I'm a little curious why her application even had mentioned that. So I agree with Jermale that seeking another opinion and getting some help with that is something she should pursue.
Okay, Murphy, do you have?
Yeah, we have another question, and I let her know we'll connect with her because it sounds like maybe there's, we might have some people who might know more about it.
Okay.
And then we have another question for the whole panel. How have you had to adjust your business in the post-COVID small business world? And are there processes you feel will never go back to the way they were, even after COVID is gone?
Okay. I think anybody can jump in there.
Okay, I'll start, at least from a lender perspective. There's 3 guarantees in life. The first two everybody knows, death and taxes. The third one is change. And certainly that's probably an understatement when you talk about what COVID-19 has done in a way of impacting small business. At RPC, we had to pivot right on a dime and adjust our programs to be able to help not only the folks who were coming in, but the folks that we already had as clients. So that's where the Race for Progress program came from. Again, race being, recovery, addressing COVID and exclusion. As we all know, there are disproportionate impacts with regard to COVID-19 and not only people of color, but small businesses of color. And so the statistic is 88% of folks who apply for a lot of the state-based funds who are people of color don't get the funding for one reason or another. So we know that statistic, and that's why Race for Progress was born. So that was one of the changes we had to make. We had to come up with, and actually we were asked to come up with by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a program that could specifically, since we were targeting small businesses of color, help them with their problems that they were having and the challenges they were facing due to the pandemic. And Race for Progress has been, well, on a small scale, I guess you could say somewhat wildly successful. We had a 400% increase in not only in applications, but in closings in 2020. And we're really excited about that. And 2021 is it's going nowhere but up. And we're happy about that too, not because of the pandemic. No one's happy about that, but we're happy to be able to provide something that's having a direct impact for the little guy, so to speak. So we had to do that. We had to come up with policy changes to address the obvious shortfalls that people were going to face, the inability to make payments or to be able to adjust payment schedules for folks because, their income's been literally like a faucet shut off. So, if they're not making money, well, they certainly can't pay anybody any money, or at least not like they used to. So allowances and adjustments had to be made for that. So we came up with a COVID-19 program as far as policy goes to be able to help folks with deferments, deferring payments for 90 days if need be and other kinds of things. So our changes have been structural and policy-based and program-based so that we can address the needs of the client, not only the ones that are here with us, but the ones that are coming in to be able to help them navigate successfully and again without fear through this pandemic situation.
Anybody else?
Well, for me, my business is very difficult to do virtually, right? So it's been one of the challenges that have turned into a little bit of a more efficient improvement for us has been consultations and even quoting without being in the home. It's tough for me because I'm a people person. I love developing the one-on-one rapport. I love explaining our processes and putting people at ease and comfortable knowing who they're hiring and what they can expect. So that's a difficult hurdle, and I don't want to lose that. But when jobs are smaller, when a customer is apprehensive about somebody in their home, due to the COVID pandemic, it's allowed me to quote right from pictures and conversations. And so that's obviously made it more efficient. If I have a client in Rockford and I live in Alto, that's made it more efficient for me in that perspective. And there's a certain percentage of that we're going to keep just because it just makes sense. I can't be in all places, at once. So it allows us to be more efficient, which has been part of our goals every single year is how do we become more efficient, not how do we just drive revenue. It's how to be more efficient. How do we create better experiences for our clients and the guys that work with me.
Yeah. Corey, what about you?
So, well, clearly a big challenge for us. I mean, we love being in front of business owners, right? The one-on-one, and as Jeff said, working with clients, and this has really put a damper on that. So we've had to, as with all small businesses, embrace change in how we communicate with clients, and generally that's positive. But one of the big things I think for our clients that has come out of this is how important it is to understand your numbers, but also be prepared, right? So one of my clients that we've been working with, we were the number 2 applicant, I'm going to brag a little bit, for the bank that they're with for the PPP. That only happened because we had really good numbers in Zero as well as in the payroll program that we work with. So when that hit and the opportunity for the PPP came out, we were well educated from our network of CPAs, which certainly helped our clients get through the noise, if you will, but then able to put the numbers and figure out, okay, what are we eligible for? What should we apply for? How does this work? And submit the application quickly. I anticipate even after COVID, this will really help clients understand their business better and make sure they stay in tune with those numbers.
Yeah, that's great. Jermale?
Yeah, I think I agree with that last comment. First off, that if for some reason you missed an opportunity to get some money from some of these programs, especially grant programs, and I'm trying not to say free money, right? But if you missed an opportunity to get some money that you didn't have to pay back because of the lack of documentation or even the understanding of those documents, I'm going to assume that that probably won't happen to you again. When you know better, you do better, or at least you attempt to do better. And so I believe that that's not going to change in terms of a business perspective of the quote unquote going back to normal. What's changing in my industry and my business is, we relocated to be able to serve food to those coming out of movies, those going and coming from concerts at Studio Park or the Van Andel Arena, the Intersection, the Pyramid Scheme, you name it, the hotels, those in conventions that might want a good salad and a juice, and then catering to the businesses and the offices that are located downtown. We just scrapped all of our food. We moved there to pay more in rent, to take out a larger loan for our business because of the promise in 2019 that when 2020 gets here, we're going to be killing it. No, we got killed. We're getting killed. We're serving the exact same thing that we served in a space that was 312 square feet, but we have 1,200 square feet. Y'all do the math. Y'all do the math and say, is that normal? And is it going to stay the same? It's going to be like that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's a ghost town downtown, depending on when you go, especially in inside spaces and whatnot. And so, yeah, we had to adjust to that instantly because I can't take throwing away any more chicken and chickpeas. But the hope is that with this change, we can begin to meet the needs in some other way, kind of come to you. So right now we're in this culture right now where it's a get it when you want it type of deal. And what I mean by that is that a lot of businesses switch to delivery. Whether they're using Grubhub, Uber Eats, or they're delivering themselves. And so if you want it right now, you don't have to leave. We're going to bring it to you. Now, for businesses that serve like what they call them back in the day, like a family style. You remember those restaurants, the family style restaurant? I remember one in Ohio. They had the big Lazy Susan in the middle of the table, and you just turn that thing. But for restaurants like that, it's difficult to serve a huge family meal that way. And so those are the businesses that I'm afraid that will suffer, that aren't able to do that. And then the other piece is, let me say this from a business perspective, especially in the food business, many of us have tried our best to stay with our original mission and vision and purpose and products. COVID has made us scrap some of those things and add some other stuff so that we can keep our doors open. Some restaurants in DC, I remember, they shut down their dining services and they started carrying groceries.
Right.
To meet the needs. And so they got to use bell pepper when they cook. They're going to also sell bell pepper to the community. And so my fear is that some businesses are going to end up having to get so far away from what they originally intended to do that at some point in time, they're going to look at their business and say, wait, we are a totally new entity. We might as well change the name to something else. And that's my biggest fear, is that businesses will end up getting so far from what they originally wanted to do that they're not going to know what direction they're heading in. Now, change isn't a bad thing, but you got to then ask yourself, are you passionate about this new look and this new feel, or what do you need to do about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it is just unbelievable to see how some businesses have just been absolutely destroyed by the pandemic. And like you said, Jermale, forced to, just to stay open, change their entire mission and complete business model. Whereas, other businesses have absolutely thrived, and it doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
But it is kind of the nature of I guess a pandemic and what's happening in society. But
what business has thrived, and no one's talking about this. Nobody has said a word about this. Let me get close here. I'm gonna act like this is a secret, okay? But it's not. The business that did not get ravished by COVID is the credit card companies. Let's just be real.
Yeah. I don't think that's a secret. I think that's a sad reality. So let me ask both Jeff and Jermale, how much time do you spend not doing what you love about your business, but actually doing the back end business? You know what I'm saying?
Yep. For me, it's very little now, thanks to BeanLogix and a conversation I had, I think almost 4 years ago now, 3.5 years ago now with Corey. So it used to be on my calendar to spend time with the administrative things, and no longer is that. And when I met with Corey, he said something to me that I still can't shake, and I know that they've improved and modified their business slogan or motto a little bit since then. But he said, "We focus on your book so you can focus on your business."
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me as exactly what I needed. We were having coffee, and it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. So I went from, in addition to the other things I can do with a computer, create invoices and create quotes and things like that, trying to manage the flow of receipts and expenses and not lose them, not lose track of them, creating spreadsheets, getting into other free cloud-based things to try to do that. I would sit down with my wife in the evening, and we, after having some, conversation, we might say, "Hey, let's watch a Netflix show." I wouldn't even watch it. I would just have my laptop open and I'd be working. And it's nice to be in proximity to her, but I wasn't present outside of, my work day. I was still working. And so now I literally go along my business, and I'm able to just, if I grab a receipt that's not from my primary vendor, which is Sherwin-Williams, I'll just snap a picture of it into an app, throw the receipt away, keep on trucking. When I deposit checks, all I do is pull up an app, record it as paid, and I keep on trucking. And once per quarter, I meet with the person assigned to me online, and usually it's just emails. "Hey, what about these 2 transactions?" And I give clarification, and I keep on going. And it has taken so much off of me that it's allowed me to pour into creating the culture that I want to, which then allowed me the opportunity to step back from being hands-on on the jobs and go get more work. And so the foundation was something that we live throughout our company, which is we cannot let what's urgent take the place of what's important. And when you're focusing on what's urgent, then you're constantly just juggling and trying to grab the one that you're dropping the most and try to get things back in the air. But when you focus on what's important, you tend to avoid emergency type situations. And that's true on the job sites. That's true in the scheduling. It's true with my calendar, and it's true with bookkeeping. So in order for me to stay congruent, the way that I can support my guys is not just when I'm on the job doing the standards that we have so that they see it, but it's also on the back end. What's hidden is maintaining those same standards. So we have from what I do all the way down to the newest guy on the crew, there's a congruency across the board, and everybody speaks the same language, so to speak, even though we don't all speak the same language. We're proud to be 50% or more throughout the last 2 years diverse. And one of the missions that we've had is our industry, especially in West Michigan, which I wasn't familiar with until, a couple 15, 16 years ago, because I grew up on the east side of the state, is there are white business owners in the trades. And then there are people who are people of color. And then in painting, there's a lot of people who are Hispanic. Mm-hmm. And there's never a support system. There's never an inclusion. It's labor and ownership. And what we do is my business partner, so to speak, my number one guy, is originally from Chile. In fact, he's still in Chile, so I'm doing triple duty. He went back to get his fiance and immigrate her here, which we're proud to have had a role in helping. It's making sure that they're in the fold, they're in the culture, they're at my house for dinner, they're getting bonuses, they're being asked what they want, not what I want to get out of them, but what they want. And so all of these things have created a culture of trust. And that has been congruent all the way through from the back end and on through the jobs. And I believe that it's kind of like smiling when you're talking on the phone. It comes through in your voice. I believe that comes through to the homeowners and to the clients that we have of what we do.
Awesome. Great.
Well, this is definitely a great question. We were heading in that direction. We were trending in that direction where I was able to spend more time in the community, spend more time building relationships with potential partners, corporate partners, speaking on more panels like this. And then when the pandemic hit, it ravished us. Now, I would say that I spent 3 years in the life of my business. I've had 3 different accountant CPA firms that I work with. But, I at one point I found my I found my accountant CPA soulmate, Paul DeBoer, who has been tremendous. That is someone who every time I go in the office, I learn something brand new that I didn't know. And I'm like, why didn't the other ones tell me this? So he's really into making sure you understand the process. And then working with Consumers Credit Union with Jeffrey Chappelle at Consumers Credit Union, that has been, even during this whole COVID thing, has been incredibly helpful. He'll call me and say, hey, the PPP loan is getting ready to be released. Fill out this information so we can be ready to go. That relationship means so much to me. But I got to be honest here. As a business owner of color, as a Black business owner in the city of Grand Rapids, where I am located, this is hard. I don't have the liberty to watch shows with my wife and kids. I'm forcing in between things, playing Uno and playing Go Fish and playing the game Aggravation with them as much as possible. And then when they go to bed at 9 o'clock, I'm back on the computer until 10, 11 o'clock. You know what I'm doing? I have added to my job description, grant writer. I'm filling out grants. If we look at the numbers, if we look at the numbers, there are of the 2.6 million Black-owned businesses in the country before the pandemic, 2.1 million were non-employer firms, meaning they had themselves as their employees. They could have had one other person here or there. And therefore, the PPP money originally made it difficult for those firms to apply because they didn't have the payroll. And then, it's less than 2%, about 2% of Black-owned businesses got that first round of PPP. Mm-hmm. And so if we're being scrutinized like that, I have to work 10 to 20 times harder to make sure that I have everything in line so that I can get a couple of pennies here or there. So I can secure the bag, as we say, so I can get the coins. And so I have to tighten up every little thing in my business, with those loans. 14% of applicants had listed race, because you had the option to put, those demographics, male, female, other race, ethnicity, and 14% did do that. And 1.9% of those Black applicants didn't get it. Compared to, 1.9% did get that loan, compared to 83% of white applicants. Let's just drop the mic. Yeah, yep. Yep, that's the question. Yep. And so those are the numbers that the SBA is running with on a larger scale. So we can drop the mic right there. Only 16% of loan recipients identified gender as female. So, I'm saying all this to say that as much as in year 7, I feel like my business should be breathing on its own, I have a lot of work that I have to do from day to day just to keep up with others in the industry, just to keep going. And while I'm doing that, I am making myself available for others to be able to ask questions, so that I can, because if Jermale is eating, I'm gonna try to make sure we're eating. We're all eating. In my community, that we're all there. And so as I'm completing these applications, I'm like, okay, I learned one new thing. Let me share one new thing with someone else who has questions. I mean, I'm sitting here right now getting text messages from a gentleman in Muskegon asking me about the PPP loan. And so I'm trying to tell him to contact his banker, who I found out he has a relationship with. But the relationship matters. The relationship that those in the community who are going through this, that they have with me, it matters. And I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm all like high and mighty and whatnot. But again, as I learn something, I want to be able to pass that thing down. And so then the relationship between me and Consumer Credit Union, that matters. The relationship between me and Paul DeBoer, that matters. Because if I didn't have that relationship, I couldn't go on QuickBooks and in an instant pull up the profit and loss statement. And in this last round, be able to break down the 3-month, 1-month cycle of profit and loss, or average hourly payroll and things of that nature. And so you bet I'm over here working. I'm doing things that I don't have a passion for, which is the back office stuff, so that I can have my 3 employees to still be working, so that I can have my business to still be open, so that I can pay rent, that I can keep the lights on. And at our peak, we had 10 employees. So not only am I doing this back office thing, I'm also in there making juice. I'm also going to GFS, picking up produce and driving around trying to find, cups when we're out or whatever. And so I'm back at the beginning in some way, shape, or form from when we first opened, feeling like I'm in a brand new business, like I started something brand new, because this is a new day, this is a new age. And my dog just busted in on me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting reality that we find ourselves in right now, for sure. We're out of time. And I think this has been a really interesting discussion, because there's a lot of different perspectives that that we've got here. What I'd like to do is just have, go around and have each one of you just sort of make a, maybe a closing statement. But I think what Jermale just said, was important, and it's about those relationships. And Corey, maybe you can start out and just talk about, why it's important for your clients, to have that relationship, so that in times like this, or just in, it's not just COVID that creates situations where businesses, find themselves having a hardship. And it's not always a time of hardship when businesses are looking to for money. I mean, it could be a situation where you're growing, and you need help growing. So yeah, maybe you could just talk about the relationships a little bit, and then we'll have everybody kind of close it out with a final thought.
So I guess you can't say it any better than it's about the relationships. So Jeff and I were in a relationship from a business perspective long before he was a client. And I have several clients, and Lori, you can even talk to this, is you don't have to be to the point where, you know what, I'm successful, now I'm ready to start hiring a bookkeeping firm. We work with startups, we work with early phase companies, and I've spent time in the last several years with several companies well before they even started on a free basis, helping them get their business plans organized, just a sounding board. What do you think about this type of stuff? And that's when the relationships start. It's fruitful, and I'm very thankful when they become paying clients, because that helps us then in turn around and provide that same service to somebody else. So it is really important for us to maintain those relationships and to help the clients before they're paying or when they are paying to accelerate their business and their passion. That's why we're in business. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And maybe we could either in the chat or somewhere on Facebook put how to be able to connect with Corey, because I do know that having worked with you and having some of our entrepreneurs at Start Garden, you reach out and you talk to our 5x5 night winners, and I think you're a great sounding board. And like you said, whether people become a paid client or not, I think it's great to know that you're a resource that's out there for people, businesses and entrepreneurs. So thank you for that. Kevin.
Thanks, Lori. I'll stick with that same theme of relationships and how important they are. I will say for sure, RPC wouldn't be where it is today without the relationships that the managing director, Eric Foster, and co-founder Kong Nguyen have put together here in the Grand Rapids area. And as a result of many of those relationships, our growth and potential we're beginning to see are starting to expand to other areas. I mean, when we started, we were Grand Rapids proper in Wyoming, and that's it. That was our only demographic. And now we're all of Kent County. We're going to the Lakeshore, and we've got plans in the works with a new program that'll be released next month that's going to take us into Kalamazoo and some other places. So relationships are powerful. As I mentioned, our banking partners, they're part of the reason why we're here and able to do what we do. W.K. Kellogg, the DeVos Foundation, Meyer Corporation, relationships, they're powerful. Social capital in some ways is more important than physical capital, or one can lead to the other. So we're very grateful for the relationships we have, but we're also appreciative and mindful of the relationships we have with our clients as well, because we realize it's their support of RPC and by them, of course, repaying the loans that we provide to them, we recycle that money and make it available to the next entrepreneur. So it's a process where everyone's involved. They're not just clients. They're contributing to the success of the community overall by participating in the program and agreeing to be part of the RPC family. So we really do appreciate how powerful and how purposeful relationships are. And speaking of which, just going back to the front end of the process, when we talk about John Hendershot, our business development director, and providing that business wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, it goes back to my last acronym of the day, or 3E process: educate, empower, and enlighten. And so that's a big part of what we do. And John does the two big parts of that. And that's the educate and enlighten. I like to think of myself as the tail end of it, where we empower, and that's where we bring the funding in.
Great. Thank you so much, Kevin. And we'll make sure all of the contact information gets posted out there. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, I think we're wired to long for, look for, and need relationships. I think that's just in our humanity, and so I believe that we were created that way. And so, knowing that as the foundation, you can go out and look for and seek out relationships, not from a perspective of what does this person have to offer to me, but from a perspective of learning, from a perspective of what I can offer. And you're going to learn things along the way. I I spent some time. This last year has been a little hectic, and I'm looking forward to engaging in 2021. It's on my goals list, and that is to get in environments where I'm not the smartest person in the room, not the most experienced in the room, and be a sponge, which is also going to lead to relationships. And then be in environments where maybe I have some things to offer, and pour it out freely. Every other contractor who's viewed me as a competitor, who sat down to ask about our cabinet process, I've just given it all. And he says, well, are you sure you want to share all this with me? Like, hear it all this, right? Like, hear it all this, because I'm going to serve, and I'm going to love, and I'm going to do these things knowing that I'm not expecting anything in return, that stuff's going to work itself out in the long run, whether it's now, whether it's down the road. For Jermale, maybe it's head above water in 2022, and all the seeds he's planting now are going to grow big plants, big trees, right, of fruit. And so, I'm grateful to be on the panel with people who feel that way, and possibly in the near future, hopefully after February 1st, maybe we can meet up for some food and some juice at the Malamiah Juice Bar and just engage in some more relationships, right? Who do you know, and who do I know, and how can we connect, and how can we all grow together? Only good things can come out of sowing those seeds.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Jermale.
Yeah, I'm appreciative of being part of this panel, and I love the name, the Juice, and for me, I want to continue to push people to support local, and to share local, but also support local and share nationally, share globally. There may be products you can purchase local that you can send to family and friends wherever they may live, wherever they may be. But also in terms of those who have businesses, those entrepreneurs, I want to leave you with what I consider the ABCs of business, and they're evolving. And so I'm up to E now. And so the first one is ask. And so ask customers what they want. Don't think but you need to know that you know what they want so you can provide it. And then B is be present. Be present on social media. Be present in the community. If you can be present at your business, let employees, let customers see that, oh, there's the owner. And then C is commit to a cause. During COVID, we've still been donating money for causes, even though we're donating, we're giving out of our lack, not out of our necessity, but we still want to continue to do that. So commit to a cause and ask your customers, your clients to join you in that. The D is deliver. Simply do what you say you're going to do, period. Do what you say you're going to do. And the E is evaluate or examine. And so take notes, document the process, document the results, then ask yourself, was it worth it? What can we learn? What are lessons learned from that? And for me, that's what this is all about right now, is continuously documenting the process. So next month, I can evaluate that to see, what does it make sense to continue to carry that item? We only sold one of them, or the cost is rising. So we got to switch some things out. So I think that evaluation piece is key. And then also one thing that I'm saying now to you all, but I'm looking at my face here as I say it, is self-care. Men, don't be afraid of self-care. If you're a macho, if your parents worked all their lives and now you have that as well, no matter what gender you are, self-care is key. And so everyone needs to figure out what self-care means to them. If you don't know, you need to figure out a way to ask someone to help you identify ways that you can care for yourself.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank all of you guys this morning. I think, this was a conversation about bookkeeping and PPP, but I think it actually was about a lot more than that. So I really, really appreciate spending the time. I know we went over this morning, but I think it was a great conversation. So I appreciate all of you taking time out of your day to do this. And I look forward to talking again soon. So thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.